Please be seated. Got a hairball. Okay, so the good news today is because there's an annual meeting and I'm going to talk at you enough there, I'm probably not going to talk a whole lot during the sermon. So, yay. Good news, I'm also probably, yeah, right? Yes. I know. I'm probably not going to cuss either, so that's a big high five. So today's, I know, y'all, shoot. So today's gospel follows a little bit along with what we heard last week. So Jesus has started his ministry, and he's starting to gather his followers along with him. And what I love most about this story, and what I most want you to hear, it's probably really all I'm going to say to you guys today, is that when Jesus calls his followers, he goes to them where they are, who they are, and what they are. And he uses their language to call them. So this particular group of disciples are fishermen. It was a very, very common job for a lot of his followers. There were many of them fishermen. And rather than going and using intense fake Latin, did you know a lot of the Latin we use isn't true? It is. It's true. We make a lot of it up because it sounds so good. I sound so much more official when I use something that's not really truly Latin because then I can pronounce it. But when it sounds good, right, it's just like, oh, see, we know Meg went to seminary. She's using Latin. I don't know Latin, actually. I know Greek, koine only, so it does me no good in Greece because it's a dead language. Anyway, neither here nor there. So we would expect that Jesus would go in and use Jesus language, right? Like some sort of really deep theological proclamations to them, right? But what does he do? When he goes to the people that he's calling to be his followers, he uses the analogies of fishermen. He uses the language of which they're going to be accustomed. The imagery to which they are accustomed. That's what God uses. And I want us to hear that because so often we think that religious calling is for those people out there and they're going to be using fake Latin because it's not real. Because none of us, there are not that many of us who know real true Latin. It's true. And that we're going to have these like great terms and that when God calls people, it's going to be a certain group of people, and they're going to be like this, right? But what I want us to hear is that that's not how God works. God calls each and every single one of us, and God calls each and every single one of us where we are, who we are, and what we are. And that can be a little bit jarring for a lot of us because we want ministry to be something that other people do, right? I mean, it's so much better because then we can say that they suck at it. So much easier. But the reality is we're all called to ministry, every single one of us, in our place. We are not called out of our place. We are not called to be someone that we are not. We are called to be who we are doing ministry in our place. Because the reality is, ministry occurs everywhere. It's not something that I do here just on Sunday morning. Sunday morning is to equip you to go do ministry the rest of the time where you are. And that could be in your workplace. That could be in your neighborhood. That could be in your family. That could be at the grocery store when you're actually nice to the poor cashier. Unlike the person in front of you who was a total jerk about the price of carrots. And you're like, dude, they're carrots. And they're like, no. I read in the flyer that those carrots are 59 cents. And you just charged me 99 cents. And you're like, oh, man. Like, they give me a minimum wage. And so when you come up next, you're really nice to them. Because you're like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that there are humans out there who are jerks, and sometimes I'm that jerk. I'm sorry about that. So you're nice to them? Would you believe that that's ministry? That is ministry. So So what I want you to hear today is that when Jesus calls us who we are, where we are, and what we are. We are not called to be different than we are. We are called to preach God's gospel where we are. And that's so, so, so important to hear. And that's really all I have to say today, is to be okay with where you are. To realize that God calls you to be in the place where you are, doing ministry with the people whom you are surrounded by. That is the ministry to which you are called. And that ministry is incredibly, incredibly powerful. We don't always know the seeds that we plant. But chances are all of us in our lives have had seeds planted, and those people didn't even know that they were doing it. Ministry has been done for all of us by people who had no idea what they were doing. And the reality is that is where Christ is most present. In us, when we have no idea what we're doing, besides loving people. See, I told you it was short, and I wouldn't cuss. I did say sucks, though, so that was bad.